We are a little bit of a delay, not too bad.
30.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
We've come in a minute early.
Thank you for having me.
And we're
Thank you for being here.
Thank
No
you.
problem. I love it. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to everyone.
No, it's so exciting. I'm so glad you're here. All right, so we were just gonna wait for a couple of people to come in. Yeah. Hopefully we'll get more than 2 people.
That would be good. That's probably my mother and my mother-in-law watch. I have no idea.
Yeah, you said that the other day.
Yeah.
She was gonna come in. Hey, look, we've got 4. Hello, people. We're just waiting for waiting for a couple of people to come in.
Sure.
We have. We didn't run this by before I hit live. Did you say Tanya or Tanya?
Tanya. It's
Tanya.
Yeah.
You guys are right. I thought it was Tanya. There we go.
No, it's Tanya. And people spell it so many different ways, and I have the most unusual spelling, I think. I've only met, and there's actually a lady or 2 women who run around the forums who spell it the same way I do, which is interesting. Yeah. I've only met a few people.
I agree. I've never seen it. I've never seen it spelled like that. I know a couple of Tanyas.
I know, and it's I guess it's short for Tatiana. So that's why my mom spelled it the way she did. Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. Which I'm not Tatiana. I'm just Tanya.
Gotcha.
But, yeah. So here I am.
All right. Hey, Shine On.
Hey, Shine On. I know.
She's been AWOL. All right, notification just went out, so
good.
More than 3 people.
Good.
The format for this anyway is that it's live right now, but it's going to stay up public.
Wonderful. Thank you. That I appreciate that, because there's a lot of my readers couldn't watch the other night when I was on a different show, which is fine. That's I understand that.
Oh, we mentioned we don't have a problem mentioning other creators or anything like that. So, but with Armchair Detectives one, I think it's had 600
that was
views.
A lot of fun too,
So I hope we can get some more views for you.
Yeah, we'll get there.
Thank you.
People can go and read this book, which is amazing so far.
Thank you.
6,
and like I said, I'm sorry, go ahead.
6 people go, well, a little bit more before we get into it.
Sure. And I hope everyone, I'm hoping everyone enjoys it. It's very different. It's not like the other books that are out there at all. I have them all. I'm trying not to read My Daddy is a Hero too much, because I don't want to be influenced by her assessment of Chris Watts, as I write. I want it to be my own assessment, more or less. But I think we're coming to the same conclusion, so that's fine.
Yeah.
I'm excited about it, and I haven't read a lot in recent years because I just have so much going on. It's hard to focus, but I've really enjoyed so much what I've read so far.
Thank you guys for reading that little sample I sent over.
It was awesome.
Thank you. And
it was great.
I can't wait. By the end of the week when I send it to the editor, so there's going to be, some typos. So I self-edit. I had only self-edited that part I sent to you. So there's still typos, as you know, but it'll be fixed with my editor, hopefully this weekend.
It was easy to read and easy to follow.
Thank you.
It was
I was in beta reading mode at the same time, so I think that was good.
Good. That helps.
So I was put my camera off while I chain smoke.
I'm just trying to share this out everywhere right now, so I'm trying to get everybody.
Yeah.
And I
usually need to give it a couple of minutes.
Like a quick promo, through Facebook, and I think it went to Instagram. I never know when my promo is good. Instagram too. It seems like it's kind of hit or miss, but I shared it, hoping that people tune in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I'm only a small channel. Ginger, this one down here has a channel, but hopefully we can get some people in and talk about it because we're excited.
Well, I mean, I would.
too.
This is going to be replayed a few times, also. So I mean, we don't have to worry
Wonderful.
too
And I'll
much.
share it. I'll share it everywhere as well. With all my readers who have read my other books, and some of them are actually true crime junkies too. So that's a good thing.
Well, to be honest, when I asked you if I could interview you, the only thing I knew about the book was that it was true crime.
Good.
And it wasn't until I started reading it that I realized it was inspired by the Watts case.
Thank you.
Um,
Good. I'm glad
so-
you recognize that, but it's sort of it's not as if I'm hiding the fact, but I did change everyone's names and the location and all that. And again, the crime is still the same, but it's a different book. Different things happen. Well, no, not really. Yeah, different characters come in that don't really exist. I'd say that.
All right. Can I ask you a question?
Me? Sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Of course.
So, with all these people who are coming out with books, YouTube
Right.
channels that are covering it, everyone who covers this case, what made you decide to go the fictional route instead of going the non-fictional route?
Oh, that's easy. I was gonna do nonfiction. So, one of my best friends, David Smith, he's actually in the book. He told me about the Watts case, and at the time, I was completely wrapped up in my last book I was writing, and I didn't have time to go and look at it. This would have been fall of 2018. And finally, I went and took a look at it, and oh my gosh, it just broke my heart, and I couldn't believe what I was reading about, and I became completely obsessed with it. And I knew I had to write about it. As a writer, that's your first instinct. You have to write about something that you're obsessed with. Like my last book had to do with Grey Gardens. I was completely obsessed with the Grey Gardens legacy. And I wanted to initially write a nonfiction book. And my plan was to talk to some of the insiders, maybe either families, if they were willing to talk to me. And I wanted to talk to, Nicole Atkinson, and see if she wanted to, contribute anything. And then Cheryl Catel announced her book and what was going to be in it, the letters from Christopher. And I thought, well, there's not going to be another book to top this one. There's no way I can do any nonfiction that would come even close to what she has access to. So why even bother? I stepped back and I sort of thought, okay, well, this is her baby. I'm not going to try to, trample on her shoes or anything like that. So I decided, let me just do it as a fictional account. Why not? Where we can actually dive into the heads of not only the killer, but also the victims, and give them a voice before and after the crime that they obviously don't have. We have no idea what maybe Shanann was thinking a week before, what her, what Bella might have been thinking a week before, or what he thought that very night, or when he started planning it. And through this book, I think we're kind of giving a view into what might have been happening, and we're giving everyone a voice, and that's why I think it might be healing to some of the people who are really involved in the case. I hope, that's what I want, but we'll see. So yeah, that's why.
So we were going to have some.
I'm sorry.
It's all right. We have a delay anyway. So no, that's fine. Sorry, we're not interrupting. It's just that little delay that makes it seem like it. But so we were going to get some viewer questions in at the end of the show, but this is a good one to ask now. Jackie said, "What is the book about?" So I mean.
Okay. Well, the book is actually, it's a fictionalized version of the Watts family murders. And, Chris Watts is the killer. And we don't say anything different in the book. We pretty much go with what is known. Of course, I changed all the names and the location. The crime is still the same. And we look at what happened before and after the crime. And we even go 7 years into the future towards the end of the book. There's some things that happen that may or may not happen. I don't think they will, but it's basically about the Chris Watts, and it's not about him. It's about the murders that he committed and the aftermath, I think. So, but it's fictionalized, so we have different names for different characters.
And I just wanted to add with that real quick. With that, it made it a very easy read for me,
Thank you.
because
Oh, good. I'm glad.
I was telling you earlier when we logged on is that like I felt like the story is constantly going and going, and
Good.
you really took it into an area where like I think the victims could feel pretty good about this. People who
Yes.
were involved with the story, who were close to the story,
Yes.
you see different. I at least I saw the people that you wrote about. I didn't
Wonderful.
just see
Thank you.
Shanann or Chris or that. I
Very
saw
good. That
your
was my
characters.
intent too. Right. Oh,
Cassandra.
I'm glad to hear that. Thank you
Yes.
very much. And right, and it's new characters, and again, we introduced some new characters that didn't really exist. I do have a character who represents Tammy Lee. One of my good friends, Julie, wanted to, have what she. I asked her if she wanted to be in my book, and so I put her in that character because she seems most like Tammy Lee to me out of my, everyone in my life. And so we do have characters for people who actually existed, but we have a few more that are different. And I think they're again sort of composite characters of people who are real, but at the same time, they're completely fictional. But they move the story along, and you'll see how they all fit in, later, of course.
Jen, would you like to ask a question?
Yes, I wanted to touch on something you mentioned when you were talking about the last question. That you said you wanted the opportunity to interview people who were either close to the family or in the family. Did you get the opportunity to do that in your research?
No, I did not. It was almost immediately after I had this thought that Sherilyn Catel announced her book. So I completely abandoned that idea. I didn't. I just dropped it and thought, well, I'm not gonna bother with nonfiction. It would be so much better, and I'd be so much freer to do whatever I feel like doing if it was fiction. And that's the direction I went. I did not pursue anyone in the families or anything like that. No.
Okay, I was just curious.
Yeah. I figured if they stepped forward and said, yes, sure, I would love for you to help me, get the word out about my side of the story, then I'd be happy to do that too. And never say never. If anyone does want me to do that in the future, I'd be happy to, help whoever get their side of the story out. But for now, I've done this fictional book, and with the movie coming up at the end of the month, I don't know wherever you guys are, if you get Lifetime, or I have no idea, but there's a movie coming up about the case on Lifetime. And I think that they didn't have the advantage of knowing that Christopher made a third confession when they were producing the movie. So that's something that'll be different with my book. Because I basically go with what he said lately, more or less, as a true story. So it'll be fun. I can't wait to see how it's received. I don't know. I'm hoping I'm sorry, I'm looking at my dog who's doing something terrible in the kitchen here. He has something in his mouth. I have a 170-pound black lab Great Pyrenees mix, and he he steals things, and I don't know what he's got, but it's something plastic. But anyway, we'll live. So yeah,
That's a good guard dog.
So here's a question I have for you. How did you come to make these characters who they are in the book?
Well, I did base a lot of their personalities on the people who were actually involved in the crime. But then, as far as names, people ask me why I gave the name Cassandra, and they thought that I was, talking about either, Shanann's mother, Sandy, or I was talking about someone else in the forums. And well, my aunt's name is Sandy, so I wanted to throw her into the book. And then I thought, well, how could we alter this name so that, for her online sales that she does, she, like sort of like Shannon versus Shanann, how could we alter it? And that's where I came up with Cassandra. And everyone else sort of just tells me their names. I know that sounds crazy, but with all my characters and all my books that are fictional, I just hear, okay, my name is Charlie, or, whatever it happens to be. And they have a 5-year-old daughter rather than a 3-year-old daughter, and her name is Kenzie. And of course, they have the 3-year-old who's named Tabitha or Tabby in the book. And they are based on the real people. But, there's some things of their own that they branch out into that maybe the real people, we don't know about them. Oh, I think I've lost you guys. I don't know why.
I think we all got lost. Yeah.
We're all lost. Oh, no.
Oh, no.
Block the lipstick.
There must be.
Sorry, I
Bridget?
just had my audio on. Sorry about that.
Oh, there you go. Is that what you're
There we
trying
go. I
to do?
see something.
Okay, so those are the names of the characters in the book, yes?
Yes, that is correct. Those are the names, right? And Werner, yeah, he's a little Dieter, but he's a terrier. You know?
Yeah, you got
And yes,
me.
Stephanie is Nicole. That's exactly right. Yes, that's pretty much the crossover there. And
Yeah, bringing up the character names.
I'm sorry, you were a little tinny. I couldn't hear that.
Here, let me mute here so it, sometimes we got to mute.
Sure. And then right, those are the character names. And yeah, there are a lot of
I'm sorry, I'll tell you. I do again. I'm bringing up the character names.
Sorry,
Hi, Mary.
Bridget,
Hi.
you're slightly frozen,
Brian
Bridget.
Clay.
you are frozen. So it's not just my end here.
No, it's not just you.
Okay,
You're frozen.
there we go. She's moving. But,
No, I can't be frozen. Hang on.
no, you're unfrozen. There we
Now
go.
it does.
Oh, no,
Sorry.
mine's gone.
Sometimes
Okay.
when you have multiple people at StreamYard, you tend to have a problem like this all the time.
Oh no. Okay,
Yeah.
that's fine. I know nothing about any of it. So whatever happens.
Exactly. So, while Bridget's not here, I'll start asking some questions. So, what made you decide? What made you decide to use the setting California?
Oh, I grew up in Southern California, so I know all about, everything. One of my favorite authors is Dean Koontz, and he really puts a lot of, Southern California into his books. And, I love reading about all the places that I know and I grew up in and, where I went here and there. So I decided to go ahead and put it in Southern California because I know everything about it, and it's different from Colorado. And I don't know, I wanted someplace that, people might recognize, but yet it's completely another setting and not at all where it actually happened, sort of thing. And also because I know that, Charlie is a head mechanic at an amusement park. And I figured let's just put that in Southern California because, I know the amusement parks inside and out over there and I know how they work and, I can do this, that, and the other with that story. And so that's what I did. Yeah, pretty much.
It was a very easy transition just to read that and understand that because of the type of job that he did.
Yes, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted it to be related to his work, but yet not the same sort of situation, of course, because, what actually happened was horrible enough, but then to recreate it,
yeah.
It kind of, this book kind of, kicked me around a little bit while I'm writing it because you have to dig into what he might have been thinking. And, it was hard. It's hard at times to, work on that kind of thing. But,
I can't imagine.
Yeah. And
it's got to be really difficult. Yeah.
It is. And, a lot of tears, blood, sweat, and tears, literally. But I think it came out okay, and the different setting works just as well for the horrible thing he did, I think, in my opinion.
For what I read, I found it to be phenomenal, and I didn't honestly feel like it being the Watts situation. I felt like it was the story, but somehow or another you were able to leave the victims out in order to tell the story.
Thank you.
And I liked
exactly. That. And I don't drag the families in really, except for a fictional character or two. So I don't want the families to think that I'm talking badly about them, or, every one of them are victims, the Watts family and the Rusek family. And I can't imagine being in their shoes and, from either side, how could you, know that your son or your brother has done something like this, plus losing every family member on that side. I don't know. I didn't want to hurt anyone. At first, do no harm, of course,
I don't feel like you did. I really don't feel like you did. Like when I was reading through it, I really felt like this is a different situation, but yet getting the story out.
Thank you. That's exactly my intent. I'm so glad to hear a reader, say that because, that's why I give my stuff to beta readers beforehand. I want to get impressions from people who are potential real readers in the future. Thank you. That makes me feel good. Thank you.
I can't wait to finish your story. I can't wait to finish your story.
Wonderful, and I'll get it over to everybody by next week. You know, you guys have an advanced reader copy or whatever, and again, that'll be before the editor combs through it and catches everything else. But thank you for reading. I really appreciate your feedback.
It was so easy to read. It really was. Don't you think?
Wonderful. Thank you.
Truly was.
Thank you. Thank
It
you.
was.
And yeah, that's pretty much how I write. I write for, you know, the everyday person. You're not going to see a lot of huge words in there or anything like that. I learned way back in journalism, you write for an 8th grade audience, so make sure that you get your point across and you're still eloquent, but yet you don't have to, you know, throw in a bunch of, you know, gobbledygook or whatever to make people appreciate your writing. So
Right. You don't have to say the $5 words that some people are going,
no,
huh?
not at all. Not even in nonfiction, you know, not even in nonfiction. So
Mhm.
thank you. I appreciate that.
No problem. Bridget, back to you.
Don't know if I'm back properly. Okay, yeah?
You're good. You're good.
Oh, good. Thank you, Mary. She said my hair looks amazing.
Aw.
It does look great.
I forgot how good it feels to just put a color in your hair.
Oh, I know. And I've colored mine.
You know, like I don't go to the hairdressers or
It's crazy.
yeah. I had a question and I just lost it.
Oh no.
I should have written them down somewhere. But usually, I was finding it hard to come up with questions because, well, one, this is probably my first, like, you know, bigger interview, and the other thing was I'm kind of like a person who does. I'm not like scripted or anything. I kind of hit the ground running, if that makes sense.
Sure,
And sometimes I'll fall over. But
you're a little
What was my
tinny. I don't know
question?
if that's my phone or.
I think it's hers because it's on my end too.
Oh, okay.
You might want to try your headphones now.
I'll try them now. Before we went live, Tanya couldn't. Tanya couldn't hear me.
No, I couldn't hear you with your headphones on in the beginning, but they might work now. I don't know.
Sorry, these technical issues happen all the time.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh,
Like I said, I have no idea how to do anything but dial a number. I swear. And even then,
While she's getting that fixed,
Hang on, the tangled.
Hey, how's it going?
Okay, can you hear me now?
I
Yes.
can hear you
Mhm.
very well.
Perfect.
No tinny.
Perfect.
Good. Okay, that worked.
Ew.
No,
Oh,
wait.
now you're gone.
No, she's
You're
gone.
Where'd
Sorry.
she go? Yay.
It worked for a second.
For 1 second, it worked. I'm sorry. All right, so we'll move on. We'll move on. I like the way that you, in the book, described the beginning setting of how he was going to. I don't want to give too much away, but
No, that's
you
okay.
kind of set the family dynamic up
Yes.
pretty well in the very beginning to make
Good.
people understand what the dynamic of the family situation is.
Very good. Thank you. And you know, it's very similar to what actually happened. I think, you know, it's sort of he feels like his wife is you know, tells him what to do, and he's a little bit afraid of stepping on any toes or whatever, but yet you know, no one is a bad person in this book. I mean, well, yes, obviously the killer is a terrible person, but I think we kind of explain the why, and it has nothing to do with, you know, his marriage, really. It more has to do with he is basically a sociopath. And I think I give Charlie an awareness of the fact that he doesn't think like other people. He doesn't have emotions like other people. I think in one of the first chapters, we talk about how he's never really loved anyone the way he should, not his parents or his family or any woman, certainly. So yeah, we set up the family dynamic, and it is very similar. But again, you know, there's no one is to blame except for the killer himself.
Correct.
I think. Yeah.
Although I will say Stephanie, who is Nicole, right?
Yes. Right.
I would say she plays a little bit more part than the police lead out to be.
I think so. Well, you know what? I think that in my book, you'll see a definite change in her later. And then there's the moment where she realizes, oh my gosh, what, what have I gotten into? What is he doing? This isn't right. Something's going on here. So I think she's more of a tragic character than, and I don't know what Nikki did in real life. And people have told me she's guilty. I can't see that, and I don't think any woman's going to meet a man and a month later say, yeah, let's kill your family. That, it might be fun. I can't see that.
No.
Even if she was in love with him for the year that she knew him and didn't really interact with him, I cannot see it. As a woman, I can't see it. I don't know. So my Stephanie, no, she's not guilty of anything other than having an affair with a married man, and then finally realizing, oh my gosh, what have I, what kind of domino effect have I caused? So yeah, that's kind of how I put her out there, more or less. And there's a surprise for
Without
Stephanie.
ruining.
I'm sorry.
Oh, can you hear me?
Now we can.
I can.
Okay, weird. So what I wanted to ask was, without ruining the book, little things like Oxy and Nicole Kessinger having friends kind of, I don't want to say into dark magic or dark things or anything like that, but like a gloss, like were you purposefully looking for those little things in,
and I think all those elements are actually in the book. And right, she is into crystals, and she, one of her best friends got her into, a little bit of Wiccan stuff, white magic here and there. And honestly, I think that's pretty much what Nikki was doing too. And Christopher being so sheltered, I think as a young man, he really didn't, live like most, young people do. He sort of thought, that's dark, that's so dark. She's, she has these crystals and she's saying, little incantations or whatever. I think she was not into anything more awful than what any people are when they get into, that kind of let's make a love spell, or let's play with the Ouija board or whatever. So right, there are elements, a lot of elements that actually happened, and I hope that I explained them the way I think they actually happened. But again, this book is a lot of my own opinion in the book, of course, because I wrote it. So and it may not be popular opinion. I know that a lot of people are going to say, oh well, Nikki did this, and she may have, but I don't, we don't talk about that in the book, really. We sort of make her be a character that you can almost relate to, I think. We'll see.
Yeah. Oh, they're all relatable. And so you said your favorite character was Kenzie, which would have been
Kenzie,
Bella.
She is.
Can you tell me why that is?
Well, I think that in the book, I know I put her in the first person. So when we talk to Kenzie, she says, I did this and I did that. Whereas the rest of the book is sort of, Charlie did this or Cassandra did that. And I did that intentionally because this is her book. She represents all the victims, basically. And I think that little Bella was wise beyond her years. I think that she, knew a lot more. It hurts me to think that she was aware of what was happening to her in the end. But I want to give her a voice, and I want her to be able to talk about what she experienced. And again, the second half of the book, we even talk to her after it all happened. So it's very unique that, I think the second half of the book has a little bit of surprises in the ending that are uplifting. But yes, she is my favorite character. She is, the book is for her, basically, so that's why.
I think it's amazing with this book that even though it is inspired by events like that, I said this the other day, inspired by true events and based on a true story are two different things.
Right.
So it's kind of amazing that, yes, it is about real people, but when you're reading it, it is more than sufficiently different that you don't. I find when I was reading it, I wasn't thinking about the Watts.
Thank you. Good.
I was imagining this family.
Thank you.
So I think that is,
and I appreciate that.
Really good.
And I think
is this your first
on its own, whether people know the story or not? It's a it's a horrible it's a horrible crime that happened either way, whether or not it's real. And, if I were to actually base it on the Watts story, they'd be named, the Watts family. But it is inspired by all the true events, and you'll see the same crime, unfortunately, unfolding. But no, again, this gives us, a chance to have the victims speak and, what they may have been going through. And that's the main way it's different, because we don't know what Shanann, might have been thinking, when this was all happening, or especially what the babies were thinking. And I think it's, it could stand on its own, certainly, without anyone having any prior knowledge whatsoever of the case. And that's, that was my goal.
Yeah, I thought that too.
Thank you for saying that. Thank you.
Is this your first true crime book?
It's my first book based on a true crime, yes. But I've written other books that are about, I have one that's about a female serial killer. It's a short novella. It's called Severed. And I have another story in a collaboration with other authors. It was my story alone, and they had their stories alone. It's called The Lair, about a man who goes around and shoots up a elementary school, but he doesn't really. It's something different entirely, and all my books have a twist in the end. But I am all over the place with my genres. I don't even know what my primary genre is anymore. I've done nonfiction. The last book
I love it that you are. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I love it that you are. You don't see a lot of authors that do that. They usually stick to their lane or stick to their genre.
Right. And I don't like to do that, because I love to read, different types of books. And I've been doing that all my life. I remember when I was 10 or 11 years old, I was reading, Stephen King and all kinds of stuff that I probably, and, my daughter ended up doing that too. At about 9 years old, she did a book report on a Stephen King novel, and her teacher thought we were all nuts. But, so I've been reading a lot of different genres my whole life, and I like writing anything that comes to my head. I'll write a book about it. So,
how old were you when you wrote your first piece? Not necessarily your first book, but when you knew that writing was what you wanted to do?
I still don't know what I want to do when I grow up. No, but when I was younger, when I was in my 20s, I used to write for different newspapers and news magazines, and I did the TV news. I was a nightly businesswoman, and I think probably in college or shortly thereafter, I started, wanting to actually do it for a living. But then we got married, we moved from California to, Illinois, and I went into careers that would be more practical for a little while. I was a realtor for about 7 years, and then we had our daughter after we had been married for 4 years. So my daughter used to literally go around with me to show houses, and then when she was about 7, my husband said, you know what, you don't work anymore. Just take care of the baby and don't worry about anything. So I've been a housewife and a mom since my daughter was 7. And about 5 years ago, I had a girlfriend who wrote a book, and she had an 8-year-old daughter, and my daughter was like, 13, 14 at the time. And I thought, well, if this girl can write an entire book when she's got a really young child, I can do it with a teenager. And that's how I got started in writing actual books. And I wrote my first book then, The Cure. And it went from there. I just keep wanting, and whenever I get an idea, I put it into a book. It's a lot of fun.
That's a very good idea. I mean, I too used to be, as I told you, I was in news media and also in radio. Sure. I have a disease now, so I'm kind of at home. Don't be sorry. But this gave me something else to do besides just being a house mom. So I started doing this. So, and that's what you kind of did. You started writing books
as a hobby, right?
Wow,
for me, it is a hobby. Basically, it's my husband makes the big bucks. I just sit here and I'm a mom and a housewife, and it's fun. I enjoy writing. When I write, you really throw your heart into everything that you write. And with a book like this, there's a lot of emotions that go through your head. And but with most of my fiction, it's entirely fiction, and it is, it's actually therapeutic to sit down and write a book. I don't know until you get to the end where you either put yourself on a deadline or there is an actual deadline, and then it's all hectic from there on out. But I do it as a hobby more or less. So
one more question.
I never thought of myself. Oh, go.
I just want to say, what
know
was
what.
just, I think I know this, but just in case everybody else,
Sure.
what date and where can you find this book?
I'm shooting for January 20th, and it'll be available immediately on Amazon in ebook and paperback. And shortly thereafter, a few weeks later, it should be on, Barnes and Noble and all those good places, even Walmart or Target or whatever. So yeah, Amazon is always the go-to. Basically, it'll be on Amazon first, and that should be on the 20th. If I change that date, it wouldn't be by more than a day or so. But so yeah, you can go to Amazon.
The link will be in the description.
Mm-hmm.
The link to Amazon, and also the link to your Facebook page.
Thank you. Oh, that's
as
great.
well.
Thank you.
I'm gonna get a hard copy for my office.
Thank
so,
you.
Yeah, I think it'll be fantastic.
Thank you. And normally I do a book release party, and I do that on social media for all of my books, where I give away gifts and things like that. But it doesn't feel right for this book. I don't think I'm going to do a release party where it's actually celebratory, type of thing. My readers will find it. I think it's going to be more of a quiet release, where I do announce it and advertise it, but I'm not going to, have much fanfare surrounding the release. And this is going to be my first book that I've ever actually self-published. I have a wonderful publisher, and she's the lady Sarah Davis Brandon, with my publisher at CHBB. I've been with them, since my first book, and I'm going to try to do this on my own. I think it's time to try to do a self-published book, and it's not expensive. Actually, I don't know. Someone was talking the other day about self-publishing is so expensive. It's actually not, but I want to have a little bit more control over, where it goes and when it's released and things like that. So I'm going to try it. This one time I'm going to try to self-publish it. So knock on wood. We'll see how that goes.
I was going to ask about that. What is the difference between the two?
The difference is that with my publisher, she handles the cover art, she handles the editing, she handles the distribution and the advertising. And, I do some of that myself. Everyone does.
Mm-hmm.
But with self-publishing, I hire an editor, I hired a cover artist, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I can, because with the publisher, of course my publisher is awesome, and she put it out whenever I wanted it out, but you're usually on a roster, and you have to wait a bit for everything, the layout and all that to get done. And it's a process when you're with a publisher. So with self-publishing, I can just, literally push a button and there's my book. I can have more control over it. And I don't know, it's scary because I've never done it before, but we'll see what happens. It should be fine. I may end up going with my publisher in the end. I don't know yet, but we'll see. A couple weeks to decide.
All right, someone else just take over a couple of minutes. I'm just going to say goodbye to the other half.
Gotcha. I gotcha. Okay. Jen, I've been asking a lot. You ask some questions.
I'm just curious, is there anything that you wanted to say that we haven't asked you about?
Me? I could talk forever. I don't really think so. I just hope that everybody, understands that, this is not another nonfiction about the case. It's definitely, completely made up. It's a novel. But no, I'm just excited. I think people will receive it well. I know there will be some people who don't, but that's, the nature of the beast, more or less. But I'm really excited about it. This is, it's been tough to work on. It's been, the most emotional book I've ever done, but I think that it'll be worth it in the end. And I do think readers will, enjoy it. And I would love for the families to, like I said, get maybe a little bit of comfort from the way we wrap the book, but well, I don't want to hurt anyone, with it. And I don't think I've done that.
I don't think you have either.
Thank you so much.
I really don't think you have.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. I appreciate that, because that's, the
No
last
one
thing
is-
I ever want to do.
No one is here to try and hurt the Ruseks or the Watts, for
No.
that matter. I wanted to refer back to something earlier about Charlie's character, which is Chris, and about him growing up and not being able to feel any emotion or anything like that. Now, they didn't focus on this too much, like the CBI and the FBI. But Jen, you have a psych background, don't you?
Jen or me?
A little bit.
Somewhat. So I can't think of the technical term for it, but do you know it? There's a technical term for someone who can't feel emotion or anything like that, and that might have explained why he was so
right
cold.
And I think it might be antisocial personality disorder. Is that
It is. That's exactly what it is.
Right.
That's not what they said, but I probably find out, but I can't think of the name of it.
At least my Charlie knows that he has this self-awareness, which I don't know if a lot of, sociopaths actually do have, but I can't imagine they wouldn't, when people talk about love and, someone feels sorry for an old woman who falls in the street and he's not feeling that, I think that a lot of times sociopaths may know, that they're different. And Charlie certainly does know that. And he has learned to assimilate the proper behavior, whether it's loving your wife or loving your children or, pretending to love this new mistress.
What society expects,
more or less,
Yeah. And what society expects of him. Yeah.
Exactly what they expect of him. Right. And he's not a bad person. Well, until he kills his family, he's not really a bad person. He's just very different. And I think that you'll see that in the end, we talk a lot about his newfound religion, and why this happened is more because he doesn't know, good and evil. He understands the fundamental concepts of good versus evil, but neither concept makes him feel one way or the other. So he's as likely to accept God as he is killing his family because he's completely empty. So I think we explained that in the second half of the book, that he may very well have found religion, but he doesn't feel anything based on that religion. It's just, something he tried to fill himself up with to say that now he's good, because before, he was evil, I guess. And so, yeah, we go into a lot more of that in the second half of the book.
But it reminds me. No, keep going.
No, go ahead. I'll talk forever. Go on.
It reminds me of a question you gave to me, Jen. Did you? I think she said, "Did you research this sociopath? Kind of information for him because it is spot on."
I did. I researched everything, and I was a double major. I was social science and psych, so I remember a little bit of it from college. But I did, of course, research it again as I'm writing the book, and trying to figure out Chris Watts. Of course, I dived into all of that, and yes, I did a lot of research. As I'm writing, trying to figure out, he's a different character. He's not your typical, psychopath. He's a little bit different. I wouldn't say he has depth because he doesn't have any real depth, but I think that I tried to dissect him and explain it in a way that people could understand, not appreciate the why, but understand the why, sort of thing, by going into what his psychological diagnosis might be. And, that's that. I did do a lot of research with that, sure.
The reason I asked that question to Bridget was because when I was reading it, I thought to myself, well, he's a sociopath.
Right.
I mean,
right.
just from your, I could tell. So Absolutely. You gave a very good description, in the reading without using the word, actually. I mean, I was able to know that was what was wrong with him.
Right. And I think there's a couple of points where Steph is looking at his behavior and she says, oh my God, am I dating a sociopath? But we kind of drop that issue. And it's not until later that she finds out, when the world finds out, that he is in fact, a sociopath or a psychopath, or, and, whatever compelled him to not, I kind of liken it to, now I'm probably going to get enemies from this, but, people who are hunters and they can actually, hurt a precious little animal. I mean, to me, I don't even know how I could live my life if I, hit a deer while driving. I think that to someone like Chris Watts or my Charlie, you know, they have that mentality that, yeah, it's no big deal. I did what I did and it's bad. You know, it's on the list of bad things, but I don't feel one way or the other about it. And I don't believe that Chris and his, you know, post-crime confessions or anything like that. I don't believe that he, even reading the letters he wrote to his family, you know, in Sherilyn's book, I don't believe that he feels any of it. He doesn't have and he doesn't know, because he is a sociopath. He doesn't know entirely that this behavior is not the way someone who had empathy and sympathy and love for other people would respond to any of it. You know,
I don't believe he's doing it on purpose. I don't believe he does it on purpose. He's just not capable.
He's not capable of it, so he doesn't know good from evil. I mean, he knows the fundamental concepts, good and evil, but he doesn't know that his behavior, you know, is a problem, that there's a reason why it's wrong, and the rest of us don't go and murder our families, because, you know, he can have it either way. Either he'll, you know, kill his family or read all about God, and he doesn't care one way or the other, because he doesn't feel the difference. And that's I guess what a sociopath would be. They don't have the empathy. They don't know right from wrong, you know.
They even learned their behavior from watching other people, but they don't even know how to act really.
Right.
Normally.
And evidence of that is, you know, Chris even Googling when to tell your girlfriend that you love her. You know, I mean, he should, you know, I obviously he didn't love Nikki any more than he loved his, you know, his wife. He had to Google it to figure out, you know, when real people who actually have emotions would be able to say something like that. And that speaks volumes of him right there, you know, that he didn't know because he didn't know.
Right.
But yeah, it's, you know, unfortunate all around that he, and I don't think he's remorseful. I really don't, because he can't feel that. Now, does that mean that, you know, he's actually, I don't know. Does that mean that he shouldn't be blamed for all this because it's some kind of a disorder? No, of course not. Oh my gosh. But he has a disorder that caused him to be this way, or that allowed him to be this way, with no remorse. And they're, you know, they're living among us. There are sociopaths running around as, you know, husbands and doctors and teachers and whatever. And we don't know it unless they act upon it. And not every sociopath is going to kill their family or kill anyone, you know. But every sociopath, I believe, has the capacity to do something violent and horrible, because they don't know, they don't feel that it's wrong, even though they may have the, you know, the idea in their head that it's wrong. So, yeah.
Right. They still know right from wrong.
They know right from wrong, and they try to mimic the right most of their life. But if they have to do a wrong, they don't care, because it feels the same as, you know, doing everything right. Yeah.
Exactly.
So that's kind of scary. Yeah.
I had a question. Gosh, it just like her. It came in and it came out. But
sorry.
Now I remember. Now I remember. No. The cover of the book.
Yes.
The gentleman, whoever is on the cover, phenomenal cover, by the way.
Thank you.
It is a wonderful cover. Could you tell us a little bit about it?
My cover artist is Lillian Asterios, and she's wonderful. She does freelance cover art for authors rather, and it's a picture of a poor stock model, poor guy. I hope he doesn't, hope he can get jobs after this. But he looks a lot like Chris Watts. And she changed his eyes and made them, you know, red and glowing and whatever. And I think that, you know, it's pretty stark cover. And the back of the book, I believe, is going to be like, you know, just all black for the entire wrap of the, you know, the paperback. So there won't be too much, you know, cover art on the back, if any. But I think that it kind of, you know, yeah, it looks like him.
It really does look like him.
Right. Poor guy. I feel bad, but.
I mean, let's face it. He wasn't an ugly dude. He wasn't ugly by any means. But
right. Well, now Christopher, I think. Oh gosh, beady. He has those beady little shark eyes. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. I will agree. But I mean, when I first noticed and I saw the story, and I saw him talking on live TV, I was like, oh my God, he did it. Look at him. Like, he did it.
I know. Oh my gosh, me too. And, you know, just to watch those interviews, I didn't get involved in the case until my, you know, again, my friend David got me involved in it back in October. I want to say October, and I don't know why. But I went through and I researched all those, the news videos he did. And I thought, oh, that man, look, oh my, why didn't anyone see this from this, particular newscast that he did this? Oh my goodness. And then you go and, I went and watched everything else about him, and it's just so obvious, but that was in hindsight again. So I can imagine maybe when people actually watched it, initially, that they thought the same thing, because how could you not,
With him, like, just his stance, the rocking,
right.
the eyes just constantly going like this. Yeah, I mean, I wasn't even really paying attention at first, but I was at the beach with friends of mine, and we were just like, oh, all of us came to that conclusion. We were just like, I think he's guilty. Like,
and then if you watch the, the police body cams of the search through his home, and oh my gosh, I mean, he couldn't have been more aloof.
Guilty.
And then in hindsight, I think, well, maybe he was trying to pretend that she was just at a play date. This is just my wife, acting up or whatever. And so he was trying to present that image that, well, why would I be worried? Because, she's just with the kids somewhere. But even if you put that scenario and that possibility into his mind, I think that he was acting so guilty. Oh, my gosh. How could they not tell? And I think that the original police officer who went there, he knew. I think he knew. Just listening to the way he had to.
Yeah, they're trained on that stuff.
I know.
But they got it.
The neighbor's video, and he was so nervous, and I don't even understand that video that came on afterwards. That advertisement for a what was it? American Horror Story. Oh my gosh! Talk about
weird.
That was crazy,
right? Oh my goodness. And you could tell that Chris didn't know what to say or do, and he just said, "Oh yeah, she's pregnant too," because it was so it was perfect, and how perfect, So, and this book has a little bit of supernatural in it, a little bit, obviously, and I think that's okay, because what a better way to write about something that's horrible than to imagine that the human spirit, goes on. And I think everyone will appreciate, the way we did it, the way I did it rather, and the subtleties, about the supernatural and, otherworldly events that happen, and a little bit of supernatural justice in the end too. So I think people will like it, we'll see.
That made it interesting to me. I thought that was a cool, thing to add.
Sure. I know.
Whatever.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and I, but yeah, that video that they showed with the baby and the oil, and oh my goodness, I don't know.
It's creepy.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And that sound in Shenan's closet.
I know, and I actually addressed that in the book. You guys will all see what happened there.
Oh.
That's actually addressed. Pretty much every little mystery is kind of wrapped up in our book, so I hope, and this is my explanation through, written through the characters and what happened to them. But I might be right, I might not be, who knows. But we do address that giggle in the closet too. Yeah.
So creepy. I was just looking at some of the questions Jen had put down, and one of them was the same as mine. Going back to, I never thought that I would write a book. I'm not a writer or anything like that, but you've actually changed my thought about that maybe wonderful. I would. So what advice would you give to someone who's never written a book, or wants to write something? Well, what would be your advice?
I mean, just start writing, and the more you read, the better you will write. And so read everything you can get your hands on, and simply write the way you talk. Like I said, no fancy words, no trying to put in purple prose into the book. Just go ahead and write the way you speak. And keep it interesting. And for heaven's sakes, cut paragraphs whenever you can. That's been drilled into my head. Cut those paragraphs. If you have to have a 1-word paragraph, go ahead and do that. It's much better than some of these, 500-word paragraphs you see in books where people don't, haven't had that experience. And
with a zillion commas and all the rest of it.
Semicolons should not exist for a writer. Don't ever use a semicolon. Ever.
Oh. Okay.
They should not exist. Believe me, they're nasty little things. And make everything simple, make it as simple as possible. We were trained as journalists that you're writing for an 8th grade audience, so keep it to that point, but yet get your point across. And you can do it. If I can do it, I'm nobody, I'm a housewife, you guys can, anyone can do it. I have faith. You need to start.
Well, you've inspired me to.
Oh, good. Do it.
True stories, but from a poor YouTuber.
Definitely. How funny. Definitely do it. And you should, I don't take notes. I'm called a pantser. I write by the seat of my pants. I don't write any notes. I don't do any, plotting or anything like that. I just sit down and I write.
That sounds like me. Yeah.
I keep everything in my head, and that's the way I recommend that you do it, because that way, like I said, the characters will come out and say, my name is, whatever. And that way you don't have it all written down, so that you have a direction. The characters will, in one of my books, I had a girl who had the sniffles one day, and boom, that came into, she had cancer, that type of thing. So the characters will tell you what to do. I wouldn't plot and plan, but a lot of people get by with doing the plotting and planning. I just don't. I don't do it that way. So, but do it, great. Definitely. Why wouldn't you? I think that would be excellent. Start tonight.
Okay.
Definitely.
What else
I'll just say that's what was most impressive to me, was your style of writing, where you did speak just to me. I mean, on a level that was very easy to understand and flows well.
Oh, I'm so happy to hear. Thank you.
Because
That's my goal, is to make sure that, it is easy to read, and that everyone can still get the concept, and everyone can still feel the book, as they read it. Then I think I write it, I write it in a way that I'm hoping it'll go through your head, as though it's your own thoughts, rather than you're actually reading a page. And
very much so. And I'm very excited to read the rest.
That's why it was such an easy read. That's why.
Wonderful.
And as I was reading, I could see the characters, and they were not the same as
they aren't
the real story.
Right.
No.
Right.
You weren't thinking of the whats. Yeah.
Good.
So when we say an easy read, someone might give that a negative, attach a negative connotation to that, but it's not.
Sure.
Being an easy read, it's just for that exact reason, that you get so immersed in these characters, and you're not thinking of the Watts, you're thinking of the Spencers.
Right. Exactly.
So,
good.
You're thinking of her story.
Thank you.
I wasn't thinking about, I know what's going to happen next. I was thinking, what's going to happen next?
Good. Thank you. That's what I try. That's what I try to do with every book.
Yeah.
Of course. Thank you. Right. I appreciate that. And it's been a process. It's it's a lot of fun, but again, with this book, it was a lot of torture, I guess, as well. But I think the ending is worth it. The way it ends, and I every time I go back and I read my final 2 chapters, trying to edit, I start to cry. So I hope that maybe
we'll cry then. If you're crying, we're gonna cry.
Oh no!
In the ending in your ending, is it the original ending that you had in mind? But since you said your writing style is the seat of your pants, I guess probably so.
Right. Well, I sort of knew how it was going to end, and I do this really weird thing. I drive to my mother's every weekend. It's like a 2.5-hour drive. While I drive, my book goes through my head, like what's going to happen next and how I'm going to write that ending. And with this book and a lot of my other books, I will jump ahead and write the entire ending, and then I'll go ahead and adjust it later as the chapters of, in front of that, the ending, they change, and they might change the narrative of the ending. But that's, I have a general plot line in my head, but it's only in my head. I would, so that anything can happen in between the beginning and the ending, more or less. But yes, I did intend to end it this way, and I think that it makes people think, and I hope that it provides some comfort to maybe someone who might have to, who wants closure, and maybe if the families are willing to read it, I would, I'd really appreciate that too. But I wouldn't want them to read about it. And even the crime itself, I do it gently, so it's not, graphic or anything like that. And all my books are PG-13, more or less. But I think that the ending is pretty much the way I wanted it to be. So that's good.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I've opened chat for questions if anyone has questions. I'm not sure, and the link's there if you do want to come in and ask a question. But I don't know how many people are around at the moment. What time have we got?
We've had quite a
8.
few people in and out, and someone else
Yeah.
wrote, the book sounds really good. I am really happy to hear that you don't
Oh.
visualize the Watts.
Thank you.
And I think that's what a lot
That
of
was
people
really
really
important.
want.
Good. Thank you. I'm glad. I'm glad that someone
And I
that
think-
you guys mentioned that. I really appreciate that. And right, they even look differently. I think that Sandy has blonde hair, and so does Stephanie. And one of the little girls has a red, like a red tint to her hair, and so they look completely different. Except for I think my Charlie looks a lot like Christopher Watts, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Who cares? Who cares what he looks like? But the rest of them are very different, and they have different extended family structures as well. I think that Cassandra has a sister, and Charlie has a brother. Stephanie has something like 3 older brothers, and her mother has passed away. So their family dynamics are, the structure of the actual physical families are different, and that brings in all different kinds of things that can happen, with all of them. So
that's why I love the dynamic that Shanann has Cassandra has a sister,
Yes.
and that there is a relationship built there throughout the book.
Right.
So, Mr. Shannonite says, this is for Tanya, maybe you can write the story of when he was a spy in Wales, disguised as a shepherd. 50 years, a shepherd spy. I don't know.
He's a
I don't know
complete and utter, he's a
Okay,
complete
I'll do
jokester.
that.
He's a complete jokester. He's a complete jokester. Just in case you don't know him, he's a complete. I love him.
No,
He's
I
great.
don't know anyone. I'm such a blank slate. I have no idea. Oh, how funny!
It could be your next book. You never know. Wenderly asks, thank you for subscribing. If anyone hasn't subscribed, click on the button below and hit the bell for notifications when we go live and have other content. Wenderly S asks, did you have any contact with Chris Watts?
No, not at all. No. I mean, I live in Illinois. I actually live very near to Cheryl and Cadel. We're about 40 miles and 30 minutes apart. And, I had talked to her about maybe, doing coffee or something like that prior to everything happening. But technically I could go up and see him, but I have no desire to whatsoever. I don't know if I could do that. I don't know if I could, emotionally talk to this man knowing, what he's done. So no, I have had no contact with Chris Watts whatsoever. But
I think after Cadel, he probably wouldn't even speak to anyone ever again.
I doubt he would. No, I wouldn't. I mean, of course, I'm perfectly open to his family, her family, anyone who wants to contact me. I'm in White Pages. I'm also all over social media. I would love to speak with them and get them all of an advanced copy, and warn them about what I would, they might find uncomfortable, but I think in the end they would appreciate what I've done. But I hope it gives them
I
something
agree.
that-
I totally agree that they would appreciate it as well by not telling the story again.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
No, it's not
again,
the story again.
they have to relive it every time a book comes
Right.
out. And I can just say, well, I'm friends with Nicole Atkinson, and I think most people know she's dealing with breast cancer at the moment. She just had a young baby this year who needed heart operations. How much shit that can be thrown at that woman, I have no
know.
clue.
I can't imagine how she's getting through at her young age. I think she's not even 40, is she? I mean,
No.
no.
I don't know how old she is, but so she said currently she's not doing any interviews, and I respect that totally. I don't even report on.
Right.
I haven't reported on the Watts case on this channel or on the Facebook group specifically for her to respect her wishes. So,
Good. And I wouldn't want to bother her either. I don't. I don't. Yeah.
She's going through one of the most difficult things a woman could go through, I think.
I can't imagine that either, and being hit with losing your closest friend the way that all happened, and her being thrown in the spotlight and not even being able to have a baby, in privacy and
in peace.
now this.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know how she's
Because
doing it.
if there's anyone listening who thinks about contacting her, just don't. I mean,
Don't.
Heaven.
Don't.
Yeah.
Leave her alone.
Just, yeah. So
This
Shasi says, had we read an excerpt? Sorry, Peg.
No, that's okay. Go ahead. I was just saying, you know, on behalf of, I don't know Nicole whatsoever, but I have been close to a story and a family who has been part of a big story. They just want peace. They don't need people
Sure.
constantly bring it up to their face. They want their children, their friends, or whomever to rest in peace, and so they can have some peace. But when people are constantly bringing it up, bringing up
Right.
their names, bringing up your grandchildren, what happened to
Right.
your grandchildren every single day,
Right.
and to me, I didn't know this family, and I can't bear to listen to it.
Oh,
So
I agree. No, I know
so
what you
the
mean.
way that, I mean, I haven't gotten to the point where you talk about all of that, but everything so far in this story has been, I don't feel slimy reading this. Like, I don't feel like this is
Good.
just
Thank you.
another Chris Watts story. This is something that's
No,
completely different
it
and
is.
takes
Thank
it
you.
almost from a different angle, I
Thank
would
you. I
say.
appreciate that. I really do because it, it is. It's fiction all around, and I don't want, again, I don't want to hurt anyone at all. And if they don't want to look at the book, I completely understand that. But I want them to know that this is not intended to hurt anyone, and it's actually my hope was to help someone, get a little bit of closure if that's possible. So yeah,
So
that's my goal.
Shah C said, "Have we read an excerpt?" Yeah, how many chapters was it? 11 we read?
I don't know how many I sent to you guys. I know it was before the midpoint of the book. About 4 chapters before the midpoint of the book. So
How many
about
chapters
11,
are there
12,
roughly?
something like that. I don't know.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
We had
yeah,
about 279 pages that we got.
Okay, good. And that'll
how many
be,
pages
the book
is
will
it?
be smaller once it's
Roughly?
actually put in book format. It's not going to be a
Mm.
huge book, but
No.
when you do it in PDF, I enlarge the font a bit so it's easier to read because I know a lot of people read it on their phones. So my mother can't ever see it, when it's in smaller font. But
That's a smart decision.
yeah, I mean, you can certainly read
Yeah.
the excerpt if you'd like. That's fine with me.
I've only given it to Jen and Peggy. I didn't want another critical K gate
Sure.
incident. So
Oh no,
Richard-
I know. I feel poor Cheryl, and I don't know. Yeah, and I don't know the YouTubers.
as I said
I just
before.
watch the YouTubers, so I don't know.
Yeah, I just said before, this is about you, so I wasn't really going to talk about her. But
Hey,
Richard
Bridget.
plus, yeah.
Loopy Lisa wrote something. She was wondering if you could read that out to her. There's 2 parts of it.
No, I didn't see it, Luke. So,
She
oh
said,
yeah, I do see your comments. I didn't think they were questions though. They were statements. That's why I went past them. But I'm happy to put, if you want to ask a question. I was just going to do Richard plus Films one. What inspired you to become a writer?
What inspired me to become a writer? Well, I've always enjoyed writing, and then when I was, right out of college, my brother and I were sort of recruited by a company in Ontario, California, which is where my Spencer family lives, called Daily Planet Productions, and they did a monthly business magazine as well as a nightly news broadcast, and then a monthly, it was monthly or maybe it was weekly, a TV news magazine, I believe was weekly. It was called Rounded About Southern California or something like that. So I started right out of college doing that sort of thing. And I just enjoyed doing it. I didn't really enjoy doing news that much though. And when I moved from California to Illinois, I did a little bit of, news with a local newspaper, and I did a little bit of online writing. But I sort of dropped everything until, 15 years later when I picked up with writing my first novel. So that's kind of the way it happened. And, we've got my brother is a publisher, a big publisher and an editor of something like 12 magazines over in Indiana. And, my mother was always a writer. My husband worked for the, Chicago Tribune for about 20 years, but not in the writing end of it. But, so we've got a lot of people in my family who are writers or editors or somehow involved in journalism. So it was sort of a natural thing for me to do. Plus, I've always been an avid reader, so I really enjoy reading. And if you enjoy reading, you're going to, move into writing a little bit more easily, I think.
well, I have to
So
say,
that's
for
it.
someone like myself who's not very into like sitting down and reading a book,
Sure.
I read through it in 2 hours.
Thank
to
you.
that
Oh my
amount of
gosh,
page.
thank you so much.
And
makes
that's
me
hard for me to do.
I
So
appreciate that.
it just came very easy
Thank
to
you.
see
Oh my
these
gosh.
people. That's all. And
Thank you.
I can't stress that enough because I am just not a big reader.
Oh wow. Oh
Yeah.
good. Well, I'm glad that my stuff is something that you actually enjoy. That makes me feel. Thank you. Thank
Very
you so
much so. Very much so.
Awesome. And remember, I
Now-
love reviews. So if you see it on Amazon, if you don't mind a review, that would be
I
awesome.
will also buy it too. So
Thank you. Thank you so much. And it's difficult to get reviews as authors. And I with my last book, I developed some people who didn't like me very much, and they'd always say, oh well, the author is begging for reviews online, and I'm like, we all beg for reviews. It's like pulling teeth. People don't want to leave reviews, and I'm sort of guilty of that as well. I'll read other books and I forget to leave a review, but then I try to go back and do it, but still,
It's like any business,
Yes.
So,
Everyone wants reviews, of course. Pardon me.
yeah.
Let's
No.
makeup
When-
malfunctioning.
Wendy S said, pardon me. Wendy S said, I'm really looking forward to reading your book. Will it be in Audible?
Audible takes a little bit longer, so I do plan to do it in Audible as well. But that would be a few months down the line, maybe a couple of months after the actual release. So yes, it will be in Audible, definitely. That's a little bit of a process because you have to hire the perfect actors and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, but it'll happen for sure. Thank
Now
you.
that you've stepped off into the true crime genre, do you think you'll stay there in your next book, or do you have an idea what your next book's going to be?
No, I've got 4 unfinished novels on my laptop right now. One of them is a psychological thriller, and here I go off in different genres again.
Do that one.
I actually have 2 psychological thrillers that I'm halfway
Do
through.
those.
Isn't that crazy? I like to stay loyal to one book at a time, so I will literally not go and work on 2 at the same time. But I was thinking about perhaps there are other cases that I could bring back to life and write them as fiction and do the same sort of thing. I don't know. I'll see how this one is received. I don't know.
Well, the Broussard case is very big at the moment.
Right, exactly.
You know
Mhm.
what?
That's horrifying too.
You know what,
Yeah.
Tanya? I may have something for you. So maybe after
Really?
this is all done, I think
Sure.
I might have something for you, which is a story that you can look into.
I know what I know what Peggy's talking about, and I think that would be brilliant.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah.
Mhm.
There's a good
anything.
source of information there. Someone said, hang on. Richard Plus Films asked, how many books have you written?
This will be my 8th, I believe. Yeah. So I
Good.
have 2 of those books are actually collaborations with other authors where we all have our own story in a book, but the rest
Mhm.
are all me. So this will be like my 8th published book for sure. And
Okay,
I have some, like I said,
published.
that are halfway done on my laptop. So
So you've got in total, you've got like a dozen or so.
no, I have. Well, if you count the ones that are half done, right? I do. And there's
Right,
actually one on there that's completely done, but I don't like it, so it'll probably never see the light of day. But
Oh, can we read it?
it was more of a futuristic sci-fi sort of thing, and I just got really bored with it. And I thought, well, I'm gonna have to go back and edit this now, and I don't like it enough to worry about it, so it's still sitting there. It's called After Real Life, but
Wow.
someday I'll get to it. We'll see.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
about people who live in a virtual world, and then one day their virtual world crashes, and they have to live in real life. And but they call their virtual world.
That sounds
real
like a
life.
lot of YouTubers we know.
Oh,
Yeah.
how funny.
Sounds like a lot of YouTubers we know.
It's sort of like that, but it's about people who live their whole life. I know.
In the virtual world. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, other YouTubers we know. Yeah,
Oh, how funny.
exactly.
You guys are terrible. I wish
I'm not saying a word.
You guys are great.
A terrible Muriel. It's Mario. Any more questions from Pat? I think we're winding down now.
I have one more question. If I don't answer this, I'm going to be angry. They're not angry. I use wrong word. I'd be upset.
No.
I wanted to ask you, there's something in the beginning of the book that really spells out that he is a sociopath.
Right.
That's something that happened to him. I just wanted to tell you that was an awesome way because it was just like, now
Are
I
you talking
see.
about the praying sort of thing when
Not
when he was
necessarily the
younger?
praying, but wasn't there a death?
The grandmother.
Oh, yes. Thank you. Then that's the way I wanted the readers to sort of understand how he feels about the world and how he doesn't feel, like you and
That
I.
was perfect.
Thank
I
you.
mean,
Okay, good.
so
Thank you.
perfect.
I wanted to do it subtly enough so people understand, okay, that's, going into the rest of the book, we know what his mindset is and we know what he's not capable of. And that's, the way he looked at the world. Shanann was no longer, for Christopher, was no longer anything pleasurable to him, and neither was his family. And same thing with my Charlie. They were no longer giving him pleasure, and that's all he cared about, basically. And he couldn't feel the love. And I think that for Charlie, we even say, if anyone was going to inspire real love, it would have been those babies, and he's aware again of his shortcomings, that he doesn't feel the way everyone else does. So thank you for mentioning that. I appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you for letting us be a part of this. Thank you
Oh,
for doing
thank
it.
you guys
Yes.
for inviting me. I'll go anywhere.
Well, I had the idea that like maybe in a couple of months and that we could get you back and do like a book review on it.
Oh, that would be beautiful.
Um,
Thank you.
I haven't done a book review since I was in school, but I think it would be great if we can get people in who have read it,
Oh, that
so it
would be
doesn't
beautiful.
ruin it for anyone. We'll
Sure,
put
I
a
think
spoiler
that a lot
alert
of
up.
people- I would love, I would love that. Anytime you'll have me, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh, that would be
Yeah.
great.
Fun.
Thank you.
All right.
Yeah,
Awesome.
We
It's been
can
very
definitely-
interesting talking to you.
You are such a lovely woman. So
Oh,
lovely.
thank you. You guys
Yeah.
are too. You're awesome.
Yeah.
I appreciate everything. Really, I do.
We know.
Aw.
And there's her humor.
It's there somewhere.
There.
Well,
So
it's true.
there.
You're great. You're great. Thanks, guys.
We really appreciate it. Thank you.
All right.
Sure.
Thank you for
Yeah, I don't know how
thank
to
you for
cut
coming in.
this
Thank
thing
you
off.
everyone for coming
That's
in.
terrific.
I'm gonna cut you off in a minute.
Perfect. Thank you.
Hang on.
Have a good rest of your day, guys.
You too.
Bye.
Hey, Tanya, hold
You
on one
too.
second.
I'm holding.
Okay.
No,
Once you go off live.
He's gone.
I'm waiting for it. It's going slow. Why do them now? There we go.
It's not going to let you go off.
Oh, no,
Oh,
hang on.
no.
No,